What's up, everyone? John D. Radio Show, live on Newstalk 1040. Hope everyone had a great holiday. Hope everyone had a great Easter. We got Paula Villarreal on the air here as well, ready to go. So much to talk about. Oh my God. We've got primary elections that are pretty much over. The general election is starting up. We've got all kinds of stuff happening in the world. And Shapiro versus Candace Owens. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Let's see here. Check. Test. Check. Test. Let's try it one more time. I'm going to hit refresh. Work out a couple things here. Just work out a couple deals here. One sec. Here on Newstalk 1040. What's going on, everybody? John D. Blair here on the John D. Blair Radio Show here on Newstalk 1040. We're trying to work out the video part of it and see what we can do on that one. I hope everyone had a great holiday. Sorry about that. I hope everybody had a great holiday weekend, a great Easter weekend on that one. And so much to talk about. It's unbelievable. It's getting crazy here. It's getting absolutely crazy, absolutely insane. We're talking about the Candace Owens thing versus the Ben Shapiro stuff. It is really, really nuts. I know I do apologize to our audience out there on the live stream on X, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We are sort of short on the video portion of this, but the audio portion, I'm told, is working now. So we're just kind of working on a few things, continue to get some different updates and some different things. We do have a lot of equipment here, so we're trying to make it all work. We do appreciate your patience on that. So I'll continue to effort that as the program unfolds. Joined by Paul at Villarreal. Paul, what's going on in the world right now? Lots happening. Candace Owens versus Ben Shapiro. We're definitely going to get hot and heavy into that, probably in the second segment. But let's talk about some of the headlines right now. What do you see right now as the hottest thing popping that we need to be thinking about?
The biggest thing that happened this weekend, John, was this kind of, I don't know how to characterize it. I guess kind of a proclamation put out by President Biden, and then some confusion about what the rules were for entering eggs into the Easter egg roll the White House does.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff going on with that, and President Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre, came out today, basically said that there was supposedly misinformation given about these issues. And I guess there was, I guess this one of the issues, the first issue, this day of visibility, I guess this is something that isn't new, but this year it fell on Easter. And so there were people who were kind of confused about that or not happy about that. And so that took place. And I guess I saw on X that the issue of what it was that supposedly you're not supposed to, I guess, put like religious symbols on these eggs for the Easter egg roll. People felt that Biden had done that himself, but apparently I saw a community note on X that said that that is the rules of I think it's like an armed services branch that does this Easter egg roll, and apparently it's their rules instead. But this was probably the defining issue of the weekend. And the Trump team and Republicans were all over this. And now today, Team Biden is definitely playing defense on this issue. And I think they've already kind of taken a few steps back with this, even if they have the facts on their side. I just think from a PR perspective, this didn't help them. And so that's kind of the main thing that I've seen that's kind of the overriding issue so far early today.
Okay, so they're feeling the heat, politically on that issue. I did see some things over the weekend about that. And you know what? This is not a bad place to start here. And just so of audience out there, I'm going to have to keep trying to sort of work on some of the technical things here and refresh a couple things here to hopefully get the video portion of this working. I definitely appreciate your patience on that. And this is what I want to say. I do believe that normally what happens is in the primary, you kind of run to your base, and then in the general, you run to the center. But now we're effectively in a general election campaign because it's going to be Biden versus Trump, barring some, unforeseen events here or some definitely unusual political situations, in my opinion. But now at this stage of the game, at this point, it looks like you are having Biden running to his left, trying to shore up his base. He's losing support in different communities out there. We're seeing it all over the place. I mean, they're trying to, some of the people on the left are talking about rural rage and different things like that. But really, you're seeing a whole swath of different demographics that are going for Trump, going away from the Democrats. And now you're seeing Biden run to the left, in my opinion. That is also, I think, part and parcel to this whole news over the weekend with the Easter egg hunt type of situation. And we're seeing it on a different range of issues where Biden is having to go to his left. And I think it's just going to be very interesting. And I don't know that this is going to help him, Paul. I think this is going to continue to hurt him because I think a lot of independents, moderates, conservative Democrats, moderate Democrats are going to say, this is just enough of all this. We're tired of all this. Yeah, we may be, I don't vote Republican, or maybe I don't like Donald Trump's hair, or maybe I don't like the mean tweets, or whatever it is. But we just can't do this anymore. And we also saw Jon Stewart talking about Trump. We saw Jon Stewart getting caught up in this discussion and about, property valuations, real estate valuations in New York City. And what's up with that, Paul? A lot of people are saying, hey, Letitia James, are just making fun of and trolling Jon Stewart over the real estate valuation. Do you think a lot of people are talking about that, Paul? Or people talking about that on X?
Yeah, that was a very, very big topic. I want to say maybe like Friday, I think it was when that came out. Okay. It was a huge topic. It was definitely something that's been getting a lot of traction. And look, if you're going to do such a unique prosecution of Trump, which this apparently was, then, people want you to look at everybody else that's supposedly doing it. And I think I saw a report that, this may have been it could have affected the Jon Stewart property by like $4 million. This is not nothing. And again, this isn't a lender, I don't believe. I think this was sold to another person. So with Trump, we're talking about lenders and who recouped interest and got all their money back. This, I think, Jon Stewart thing was sold to another individual. So that's kind of even a different matter. So yeah, people were definitely thinking about that. And Jon Stewart himself felt the heat, where he even put out a tweet to the extent saying, oh yeah, okay, I did something what Trump did. Now I have to, if I do all these other things, then I'll be caught up to him. So basically he was caught, and he knew he was caught, and he was trying to kind of play it off.
Yeah, very interesting. And again, with the Jon Stewart transaction and stuff like that, it's not like this is some huge, some $100 million transaction, and it was a $4 million differential. I can't remember how much the transaction was. I don't know if it was I think it was in the single digit millions or something like that, maybe, or I don't know. I don't want to misspeak. I'm not quite sure. Maybe Paul can get that information.
I'm not sure.
yeah, maybe Paul can get that information, but it was definitely not like $100 million deal. I don't believe so. I'll look that up here in 1 second. Actually, let me see if I can do it in real time. Let's see what it says here. And so that's a big deal. Okay, this is what we're talking about right here. It's a huge deal. And now and listen, this is the kind of thing that we talked about with Kevin O'Leary about how this is going to really hurt New York and New York real estate and everything like that. That's a really big problem right here. And this is a Newsweek, right? And why Jon Stewart's home valuation is different than Trump. Oh yes, different than Trump. Well, let's forget about Newsweek. Let's talk about the New York Post here. Exclusive, Mark K. Jacob, March 27, 2024. Jon Stewart, quote, headline, Jon Stewart benefited by 829% overvalue on, quote unquote, of his New York City home, even as he labels Trump's civil case, quote unquote, not victimless. Okay, so that's very, very interesting there. And this is the thing. I mean, it's like if everyone's used to doing things a certain way, and then you start shaking things up, or you then what's up about that? Okay, so here we go. So in 2014, Stewart's, this is quote, in 2014, Stewart sold his 6,280 square foot Tribeca duplex to financer Parag Panda for $17.5 million. Okay, and then it goes on and talks about different things. Now here we go. Quote. But according to 2013-2014 assessor records obtained by the Post, the property had an estimated market value at only $1.882 million. So the difference between assessed value, market value, sale value, there's some differences there. And it's just like happens with companies, it happens with art. I mean, there's all kinds of different things like that. So, what's the correct value? Is it assessed value? Is it sale value? In other words, it opens up a lot of different things right here. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. And Jon Stewart is getting just totally, punked out online when it comes to these kinds of things. And I do think that that's something that people are definitely going to continue to talk about and react to, Paul.
It is. There's no question about it. And look, I mean, again, it's just a don't throw stones in a glass house.
Right.
So if everybody's coming after Trump, then everybody's going to take a look at the person that's throwing the metaphorical stone. And in this case, of course, it was Jon Stewart, which is what the New York Post pointed out.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Now, we also need to talk about, and we're going to do it in the next segment. I might preview a little bit of it right now, but the Candace Owens Daily Wire thing. It's Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, but it's really Candace Owens Daily Wire because you've got other people involved here, Jeremy Boring and Andrew Clavin, in my opinion, some different people involved here. And I would just say that, like, the short story I would say here, and we'll get into it in the next segment in more depth, maybe some of this segment, is regardless of which side you take on this, I think it's safe to say, well, might as well, we can dig in. Well, no, I'll wait till the next segment. I think it's safe to say that Candace Owens is winning the PR end of this, side of this, if you will. I mean, I think that there's a lot of questions now arising from different statements. People are going back and looking at different things. In some ways, I feel like, well, yeah. I mean, I think that the Daily Wire is definitely losing the PR end of this, in my opinion. But we'll see. I mean, I think this is very, very interesting. I think it definitely has a lot of people talking about it. There's definitely, people are going on. You had Shapiro sitting down with Dave Rubin, Shapiro talking to Piers Morgan, Shapiro's on with Megyn Kelly. I haven't really seen Candace Owens out there yet right now. Before, we did see her on with Patrick Bet-David and doing stuff with Joe Rogan, but right now I'm not seeing that, or I haven't been. I've been busy with some of the other stuff too. But very, very interesting. Even a 1 week later, and Officer Tatum's talked about this. A lot of people have been talking about this. I think the Quartering was talking about this on YouTube. A lot of people are definitely talking about Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro. We will get into it in more depth next segment, but do you have a high level comment on that right now, Paul? And I'll see if I can fix some of this video stuff.
Yeah, look, my comment is this last 2 weeks or so, there's been a lot of stuff going on in kind of the conservative influencer sphere. We've seen stuff, of course, with and Ben. Just mention is, I think you said previously that Candace seems to be like she's going to go to locals.com, which a number of people on the right go to. But I agree with you. I haven't seen her anywhere, although I'm not looking for it necessarily. But you just mentioned Ben. Ben's all over the place.
Yeah.
Look, the Daily Wire is an established, it's a warehouse, so to speak, of conservative talent. I mean, they're going to do what they do with or without Candace. And so look, we can talk about it more next segment, but no, I have seen Ben. I have not seen much of Candace. I have seen Candace getting a little bit involved with the Crowder situation, just commenting about that. We can talk about that. But no, I really haven't seen her like doing videos or anything like that. I have not seen that.
The Crowder situation is another very interesting situation, and I'm not sure, like, I've only tangentially seen some of that, but that's another story that doesn't seem to go away, and that continues to morph and discuss on that end, which is very, very interesting. Yeah, I've just tried to fix this again on the video side. We may not have video in this show. We'll see. It may have to we had it, and then we wanted to make sure we had the audio, obviously, for Newstalk 1040, and so the video is not here right now. We may have to. Hopefully, I can fix it during the break, because I think I may have to do a couple different steps. But all good on that one. Yeah, the Crowder situation is also very interesting, and you're seeing like different people talk about that. And now you have a former, I think Jared or something like that, former employee of Crowder. And coming out, I guess, in support of the of Crowder's wife, ex-wife, whatever the case may be. I'm not quite sure. I haven't followed it, or and there's definitely interesting things happening there. Not so much. I mean, I'm not just. Let me rephrase that. We wish everybody the best, and we don't like to see any marriages dissolve or anything like that. Okay, everything we're saying is our personal opinion, and all that. When what we're talking about, there's different developments, different narratives, different storylines that seem to be happening there. And it's just, how do I say this? A lot of, what do I want to say? It's hard to know who to believe, I guess. I haven't followed that closely, but you're seeing some very different reports on each side, I guess, Paul. I don't know how to characterize it. I'll probably revise and extend what I'm saying right here, right now. But I definitely feel like there's different perspective. We've seen some different numbers being thrown around with the Crowder situation, and then the other people are like, no, that's not quite right. We're seeing different narratives. We'll say, okay, well, we see we're not having the full context. Just Pearl, or Pearl has come out and talked about this. There's a lot of people discussing this. I mean, what are you seeing out there on the Crowder situation?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't follow this stuff.
Me neither.
I don't follow conservative influence or intrigue stuff so much.
Right.
I came upon the Crowder stuff, and I came upon a X thread, and in the thread was Candace and I believe Jared. Maybe it started with Jared, the former employee. So Candace, Pearl, other people that are like fairly big names. Can't remember these people who they are because I don't know them. But I looked at them and like these people have a number of followers. And so, as you said, there's all these kind of cross accusations being tossed out, and I'm just like, when did this all get so complicated?
Oh my gosh!
I mean,
right?
it's like all the little plot twist and palace intrigue is unbelievable.
It really
so
is.
But I guess when you become a certain level, all of that stuff can follow you because people have their own agendas. And so look, we can talk about this more. I mean, I saw stuff that I just like, what? I had no idea that any of this was even like potentially taking place.
Well,
So it was really wild.
yeah, and you know what it is? Oh, I gotta be really careful how I say this. How do I want to phrase this? Number one, life happens, right? Life happens. Relationships are tough, whether it's coworkers, marriage, whatever it is. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, across beyond these stories and stuff like that, life happens. Relationships are complicated, etc. I would say that's number one. But then also, like, I think that you we're not talking about any of these people right now. Let's take it totally away from them. Whatnot. I mean, let me put it up myself. When people follow me and follow my stuff, they hear me on air, when they meet me in person, or they see my videos, like, wow, you're just like your video, or you're just like I heard you on Newstalk 1040 or something like that. And I think that that's where you want to be. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be very much authentic and congruent. And I'm not making any comments on anybody else. It's just, there's no surprises when it comes to John D. in my opinion, in terms of that. You know what to expect. And I think that, nor do I hold myself out to be a perfect person or anything else like that. And I think that as the old saying goes, and this is, I don't want to, yeah, I want to be here. I don't want to say that story in this thing right here. But listen, there's lots to talk about there. People are sending me messages, everything like that. We'll talk more about it. I will finish that point, and we'll talk about more on the other end of the break. And we'll get right into it on the Candace versus Candace and the Daily Wire stuff, because that is definitely a very hot topic right now. You listen to the John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040. Thanks so much for listening, and we will try to work on the video here. Also, streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. We'll be right back in 6 minutes. What's up, everyone? John Depot here, the John Depot Radio Show. I think we've got it all figured out. We have the video going again. We've got the radio going, the audio going. It's all good, all good. Happy Monday after Easter. April Fool's Day. This is no fools right here. There's no fooling situation, no joking situation. We are going to have fun. We are going to entertain you. Absolutely no doubt about it. But we're talking about Candace Owens versus the Daily Wire. And it's really not like one person or Ben Shapiro. I mean, Ben Shapiro's out there talking to different people. There are some people that are saying that Daily Wire is, listen, a lot of people are talking about this. There's a lot of criticism out there. You've got a lot of people, Officer Tatum's talking about it. You've got The Hill talking about it. You've got a lot of, I think Jonah Rises, the Quartering, a lot of influencers out there on YouTube. A lot of people are talking about this. And it's really getting a lot of traction. I'm going to bring Paul up there here in a second. But what I guess what I was trying to say a little bit last segment is, let me talk about myself, and then I'll swerve into this. So not talking about anything right now, but like I said, if you see me on videos or you hear me on the air, when you meet me, it's the same thing. Maybe a little more intensity, maybe a little less intensity, whatever. And there's sometimes I want to chill and not say anything. That's kind of rare. I mean, my wife's like, he's always talking. I mean, right. So I think that it's a level. I try to operate in my life with a level of, again, I'm not comparing anybody. I'm not saying anything. I'm not commenting on this. This is a standalone statement. I try to operate in my life with a level of transparency and a level of authenticity and honesty and integrity that's very, very high. And you can see Paul comment on that. Let me bring him in here in a second, not to set you up or pat myself on the back, but would you agree with that statement, Paul?
Yeah, no, you're very straight up, you're very honest, and what you see is what you get.
That's it. And I think that I have lots of other faults, but I think people really appreciate that. But whether they like me or they don't like me, they understand where I stand. They understand what the brand is. They understand what I'm delivering. Now, as I like to say, when you first, this is leading to stuff, believe me. When you first meet me, some people that don't know me are like, oh, whoa, it's like, wait a minute. There could be a misperception. Most people really like me. A lot of people love me, okay? But over time, I would submit to you, if you do not like me over time after getting to know me, it takes some people time to get to know me. Understood. That's okay. That's fine. I'm a super genius, complex person. I get it. Even though I try to make it very, very simple and very, very transparent. But if you don't like me over a period of time, it's probably you and not me. And that doesn't mean I'm the greatest person in the world. I like to try to think I'm a good person and all that, type of stuff. But it really goes back to what Paul just said right there, which is I'm very straight up, very high integrity, high honesty. I'm not, as I like to say, I'm not anti anybody. I'm just pro John. There's a clarity in what my brand is. There's an authenticity and honesty about it. And therefore it's like, okay, if you go to let's say you like ice cream, you go to the store, your favorite ice cream is chocolate ice cream. You don't like vanilla ice cream, or you like chocolate ice cream, you like vanilla ice cream, but you don't like pistachio ice cream. You're not going to get mad at the pistachio ice cream because it's there. It tells you it's pistachio ice cream. Now, if you get pistachio ice cream and it turns out that it's Napoleon ice cream, you might be like, hey, what's this? I thought I was buying pistachio ice cream. Okay, so now I just want to, so when you're straight up and transparent and honest and have integrity and you communicate your values or whatever that it is, or you when you live your brand, different than wrestling, living the gimmick, right? Because the gimmick's not real. When you live your brand and your brand's real and you're authentic about it and you've communicated that, then people can't fault you. about that. I can't get mad at a lion if he bites my arm, or if I stick my arm in the cage or what, or the enclosure, or if I'm out in the safari, or whatever it is. That's what lions do. I can't get mad about that. If I go swimming in a lake or any kind of water here in Florida, there may be a gator in there. I can't get mad at the gator. That's what gators do. Okay, so I want to set that situation up. Now we'll spin it forward. Now, separate topic on the Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro situation. I think where there's so much to unpack here. And first of all, I want to revise and extend some remarks from before. I'm not dissing or punking out or putting myself above, anyone here. Both Candace Owens, everyone in the Daily Wire, particularly Ben Shapiro, way more successful than me, probably way more successful than I'll ever be. Glad they're on the right. Glad they're out there speaking for stuff. We need more people. We need a bigger tent. There's going to be the bigger tent we have. There's going to be on any particular issue, people I agree with, people I disagree with. That's totally fine. I don't revel in anyone getting punked or owned or, hey, I've got to, there's two ways you're great. Being great or trying to tear down other people so that you look better by comparison or whatever. Or they like to, like they saying in the car business, or just in tech and stuff like that. There's A players. A players don't like to work with B players. B players like to hire C players to look like A players. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a B player trying to hire. So I'm an A player and or A plus player, in a lot of ways. But so where there's criticism and there's been a lot of heat, Paul, and I know you're an expert on this. I'm not to put you on the spot, but you may or may not have comments, and we'll go from there. Is the Daily Wire for so long has talked about we need free speech and cancel culture is wrong and you can't have that and free markets and hey you shouldn't be shadow banned or whatever. And again, I'm not quoting anything. This is my and listen. In full disclosure, I've seen a bunch of clips over the years of Ben Shapiro, but I don't follow the Daily Wire. I don't watch Ben Shapiro on a daily. I don't watch Candace Owens on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, I've seen them both. I'm not punking them out. I'm not trying to put myself above them or anything like that. Both are wildly successful. Okay. And, they spoke at CPAC. They've done a bunch of different things and they put a lot of time into, the conservative cause and stuff like that. I am not trying to punk them out. I'm just telling you, for me, that's not neither one of those sources are what I go to day to day. Okay. So if I misspeak or make a mistake, then I apologize and I'll revise and extend. Okay. That's all I'm trying to say about that. Okay. So, but if I'm not wrong, I think the Daily Wire and to some extent Crowder. I mean, I think Ben Shapiro. I think there was a bunch of folks that came up, and Candace is one of them that would go to college campuses and say, Jason Mateer. There's some other one. I maybe campus reform and stuff. Charlie Kirk and talking. Turning Point USA. Hey, we got to fight against the censorship of conservatives on college campuses. We need, free speech and anti-cancel culture and stuff like that. Then it turns to this situation here, and people are speculating because, they're not coming out and saying it. But I mean, you look at some of Ben Shapiro's latest statements and Andrew Klavan and some other people that have talked about this, that maybe, possibly, that there was a disagreement on some there were some disagreements that there basically was some how do I want to phrase this? People are wondering if there is certain subjects that may not be able to be talked about and still be employed by the Daily Wire. And if I remember that right, if I'm speculating on that right, based upon the reports here, in my personal opinion. And some have said there's, I can't remember, who exactly, but I think, well, I just saw like The Hill and some other people. Glenn Greenwald has talked about this, and that raises the question of, hey, is there hypocrisy? Like, you don't want cancel culture for you. And then there's this discussion, well, we're a publisher, not a platform. And Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro were talking about this stuff. And we can see what Paul wants to say about this, but I think I'm just telling you, as someone that's pretty darn good at marketing, communication, PR, yeah, you might say I'm an expert. I've been in it long. Like from a PR perspective, I think this is doing huge. I don't think. Let me put it another way. I don't think the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro are looking too good in this one. Paul, your comments.
Well, a couple of things. First, I think that the Daily Wire has a particular brand, or that's certainly where they're going right now. But I think they already had a brand, and basically, Candace doesn't fit the brand. And I honestly, myself personally, I don't have a problem with that, because I don't think that she fits in with that brand, but based upon where she's, I don't know, where ideologically or whatever it is, she seems like she's changed positions on, or just taken a different tact in recent months. That's just my own personal observation from coming across her stuff rarely. So, I mean, I'm not an expert on Candace Owens. I'm not an expert on the Daily Wire. So honestly, I don't have a problem with where the Daily Wire is coming from. She just doesn't fit what they're trying to do. Candace is going to be fine. I'm sure she has some concept of what she wants to do.
It's going to be totally fine. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I want to make a comment on the. I apologize. I mean, whenever you wind down, just remind me. I want to make a comment on what you said about the Daily Wire brands. I think that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. Continue.
Yeah. So, Candace isn't being silenced here. She can still say what she wants to say. Now, can she say it under the banner of the Daily Wire? Maybe not. She did for a long period of time. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not concerned about that. Although, of course, as conservatives, we know that can be an issue. And that is something that does need to be looked at. Look, I don't think that, the Daily Wire has plenty of viewers and they get plenty of views. We've talked about that. And I don't know, maybe some of that is Eric, I don't know, but I'm sure there's plenty of people who do watch their stuff. I don't think losing Candace is going to do that much damage to the Daily Wire brand, because what was the brand anyway? You know what I mean?
Right.
If you like Daily Wire, does losing Candace really change your mind? Like I said, I've compared Ben to somebody like a Guy Benson, or, well, that's Dave Rubin, actually. These guys have a particular brand. It's more establishment. It's a different thing. And I don't really know if Candace fits with that. So maybe you lose a little bit of breadth in your brand, but the core brand, in my opinion, is still the same. So, yeah, you can talk about what you want with the brand now.
Yeah, it's you brought up a number of things I want to comment on, but let's talk about the brand first. And let me make a side comment right here. Let's say there's, and I'm not going to use a particular name because I just don't think that that's totally fair either. But let's say there's a GOP politician, congressperson, senator, whatever, and their real position. And I'm not saying this is totally make-believe hypothetical. Okay, let's stipulate that. Their real position is, hey, you know what? I'm going to vote for every single war or military, intervention, period, end of story, because that's what I believe in. Or I'm for the military industrial complex, or, I've got stocks, I hold shares of Raytheon stock, whatever, Boeing, or whatever, Northrop Grumman, whatever that it is. And I'm all for it. And that's what we're going to do. does that person, does that fictional politician's constituency know that? Do they understand that? Particularly if, like, let's say they're a Democrat or something like that, and a lot of their constituents are anti-war or whatever it is. Does that, in other words, does that position, does that actual brand or does that actual policy coincide with the perceived brand? Okay. And so, so then we go back to this, and I'm trying to think of a better analogy. I'm just trying to think what the better analogy is. It'll probably come to me later.
You're talking about the analogy for what the person really is?
Yes.
Yeah. You know what the analogy is?
Talk to me.
The one that Trump does the thing about the snake. You knew what I was when you took me in.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is, I think I agree with what you said. I have zero problem with Dave Rubin, zero problem with the Daily Wire, zero problem with the people that love the Daily Wire or anything like that. Like it's fine. Nothing surprises me to the extent that, like, now some people are saying, hey, Candace Owens was the biggest star over there, and there's a big loss to Candace Owens. I mean, I could see it both ways. I think Candace Owens is a big name. I think Candace Owens is bringing attention to the Daily Wire. Was it more than Ben Shapiro? I don't know. I mean, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe she gives them more reach. I think other than Candace Owens, and I'm not trying to be I'm just talking from the outside. I'm not trying to be a punk. All these people are more successful than me. I think, from a layperson's standpoint, I'm not, but I mean, I'm just saying from what my perception of some are. Other than Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, most people couldn't name anyone over their Daily Wire. Okay, so those are the two big. So if you're losing, and you could say whatever the analogy is. If you've got Emmett Smith and Troy Aikman, Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin, you lose one of those, it's going to hurt, right? Now, that being said, maybe the fear was, hey, this is someone that, Candace Owens, maybe she's going to become bigger than the Daily Wire. Maybe she felt she was bigger than the Daily Wire. I'm just totally speculating. If Candace Owens, can go into business for herself, whatever like that, if this hurts now, how much more could it hurt later? I don't know. I never subscribed to that thinking in any event. I want as much star power as possible. Are you kidding me? Especially if I'm a publisher or something like that, because I mean, you however you want to characterize it, you need you want as much attention and star power as possible. It never makes sense to get rid of a Tucker Carlson when they're the number one show. Like, it just, I don't get that, right? I mean, what's MSNBC without Rachel Maddow or Keith Olbermann before that, or Tucker or Fox News without, Fox News hasn't been Fox News since Tucker Carlson to the same level, in my opinion. Okay, so let's put that out there. But what I'm saying is this. It's the same red pill type of commentary. Do people look at, I think that people look at President Obama differently now than they did when he was in office or running for office. You understand what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of people, including a lot of Daily Wire fans, that may be seeing that brand differently now than what they did before. A year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And, and to me, it's like you said, I don't feel any differently about it now than I felt about a year ago or 5 years ago, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know how long they've been around, but I mean, like, I'm not surprised. I have no issues with it. You know what I mean? Like, it's totally fine. But, and this goes back to the views and who's most influential. This goes back to Dave Rubin, talking to Patrick Bet-David, and who's more influential, Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro, stuff like, oh, Ben Shapiro's right up there. No, he's not. Ben Shapiro has a particular point of view. It's the same thing with when John McCain ran. John McCain has a ceiling, in my opinion. Maybe you could say Tucker. Maybe every politician has a ceiling. Oh, Trump has a ceiling. Well, Trump's ceiling's way higher than John McCain's, for a lot of reasons. Okay. And when Glenn Greenwald, Barry Weiss, I'm just trying to think, Patrick Bet-David, it's like Patrick Bet David is trying to position himself, in my opinion, more mass market. And if you know, if I went to, oh gosh, I gotta be careful how I want to say this. Let's say I went to Aruba. I love Aruba, by the way. Aruba's fantastic. I can't wait to go back. I got friends. If I went to Aruba and I'm doing the Johnny V American show, we got to vote American. We got to buy American. Whatever America does, I'm all for, I'm Johnny V, and I'm all for America. And I got my freedom shirt on, everything like that. Well, first of all, Aruba are very friendly to Americans, stuff like that. It's one happy island. I love Aruba. I might have a limited audience. Now, maybe it's a big audience, but there's going to be some limitation on it. As opposed to, hey, Aruba's great, and I'm going to talk about Aruban food, and we're going to talk about all the great places to go to Aruba. You know what I mean? Like if I'm saying like, hey, this is the Johnny V America, whatever it is, probably in Aruba, there's a limitation on audience here. Or if I'm like, I'm the Johnny V Super Aruba program, but really I'm pushing America stuff or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to be misconstrued. But Paul, you help me out here. I don't want to take myself in a hole. Do you understand what I'm saying, Paul?
Look, I do, and I'm just gonna I just say two quick things. Number one, and this comes back to what you were saying earlier when you kind of were talking about yourself to introduce this segment. What you're trying to say, my understanding of what you're trying to say, and I agree with you about this, is you and us, we two people, we are going to tell you what we think no matter what.
Right.
No matter if that plays well or if it doesn't play well, if it plays to a small audience or if it plays to a big audience. One of the things what John's trying to say, in my opinion, is about some of the people in the conservative constellation, so to speak, or conservative Inc., or whatever you want to call it. Some of those people and some of the audience members don't know this. They're coming from an angle. They're playing an angle, even if they don't really believe that. And what's ironic about that is several months ago, Candace went through a litany about this regarding Crowder, where she was trying to tell you, you guys think Crowder says he's for the cause, but he's not really for the cause. Well, all I'm going to say about that is it's not just Crowder who's in that category.
Let me stop you for a second.
I think that's what you're trying to say.
I'm sorry. That's a great point. There's a lot of people. Forget about these people. Forget about Candace Owens. Forget about Daily Wine. There's a lot of people I know in radio. Okay. And I'm not going to name any names, stuff like that. And some of it's sort of like, there's a lot of people like they try to succeed in radio. They figured they sort of sense like consider, radio's for conservatives. When Rush was coming up and getting super successful and doing 600 stations or whatever it is, there's a lot of people that maybe weren't really that conservative or whatever, but hey, on the air, they were conservative, or they're going to do, or all of a sudden now you've seen a lot of people switching to, hey, we're really religious. We're doing the religious thing now, or whatever it is, whatever it is, they switch it up. We're going to have to wind up. We're going to continue this in the next segment. I'm also going to talk about my dad. That's great. And it makes a good little story. And so, how authentic are you to the brand? This is a little bit complicated. I need you to stay with me because this makes such a great point. And this is exactly why Trump is doing well and the liberals can't understand it. So much more to talk about here on the John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and yes, the video's working. Stay tuned. 6 minutes, right back at you. What's up, everybody? It's me, John D. Villarreal here. This is John D. Villarreal Radio Show here on Newstalk 1040, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X. Oh my gosh! So there's so much to talk about. We're talking Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro. Lots to talk about on that whole situation, and we're going to continue to dive into that situation. No doubt about it. I mean, it's just really crazy. So, I mean, look. 5 o'clock hour all over the greater Tampa Bay area. If you want to call in the line, I'd love to hear from some listeners out there in the News Talk audience out here. 727-587-1040. 727-587-1040. Would love to hear from you out there. Who do you think? Who do you think's winning in this? Who did they both lose? Did they both win? Any publicity is good publicity, John. You know, they're both winning. Hey, they're both losing. And I really, I was surprised by Candace Owens, or surprised by Ben Shapiro, or do you think that it's no big deal? It's not something that concerns you? 727-587-1040. Also, I can if you're on X or YouTube, I can see your chat. You can chat me, and we can talk about that right here. Here's the take. Just continuing the conversation also on with Paul at Villarreal, joining us by phone. Did I put my phone in the other room? Maybe I did. I may have to go grab that here in a second. And I mean, listen, it's really, really wild. I mean, it's a wild situation. I feel like, how do I say this? You have to be authentic to your brand, and people have to understand what that brand is. That's the thing. Here's the thing. If there was full clarity with the entire audience as to if there's people now that are saying, wait a minute, I didn't know the Ben Shapiro was like this, or Daily Wire's like that, or why they do this, or why they do that, then there may be the disconnect on the brand. Maybe people were not understanding the brand. You know what I mean? Like if I come on, if I say, every, week after week, I do my show, and then all of a sudden, like, people are like, well, wait a minute, Villarreal likes Trump, or Villarreal likes DeSantis. I didn't know that. Well, then there's a disconnect on the brand. I have no problem. Well, I don't want to say that because I don't know. Like let me put it another way. Without getting into the specific issue, I think that you could have a position of. There's a lot of things you can take a position on, but you have to be clear about what you're taking, what that position is, and it's just a bad look to say, hey, we're all for free speech, we're against cancel culture, and then potentially you part ways with Candace Owens, one of the biggest names right now in conservative media, an up and coming voice, someone who's been pretty fearless in a lot of ways, because there's a disagreement over foreign policy. And I guess that gets to some of this, right? This is maybe at the heart of it. And I might have to just super temporarily excuse myself to go get my phone. So I definitely want Paul to jump in on this. I do apologize on the 1040 audience on that. I don't want to, let me just see if I can find it here around here. 1 second. But I'm about to hit something. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me do that. Give me like less than 30 seconds. I'm going to go get this phone. I want Paul in on this because this is going to be hot. Stay tuned. Hold on 1 second, 30 seconds. I'm going to go get my phone. Be right back. Okay. That was like 15 seconds. All right. We're back now. All right. Now let me just see. Hopefully I'm connected here. Let me just take Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Time out. All right. Here's what I want to say about this. Hopefully I can remember it again. If my thing is if this was a disagreement on foreign policy, okay. If the line of the Daily Wire is about foreign policy and Candace is on one side and you're on the other side, fine. In many respects, no big deal. But if the audience does not know or did not know, or 10%, 5%, 20%, 50%, whatever it is, did not know that was the line for the Daily Wire, then there's an issue communicating the brand. That's number one. Number two, more importantly, if you're here in America and you're like, hey, we're conservative and we're all for America and we're for traditional, tradcon stuff, and we're for, relationships and marriage and religion, and we're for the First Amendment and we're for the Constitution and we're all about that. I have to tell you, what did James Carville say? It's the economy, stupid. For most people in America, constitutional rights like the First Amendment and being against cancel culture and being, for freedom of speech and freedom of all these types of things, and freedom and liberty and opportunity is way more important, infinitely more important than foreign policy. Does that make sense, Paul?
Yeah, of course it does.
Okay.
I mean,
so one second. Sorry. So that's the point. Now, for whatever reason, you and whatever, it may be more important for you any particular foreign policy issue. Maybe who knows? Maybe you've got family in Ukraine and there's a war over there. Maybe whatever. You've got family in Cuba. I've done radio in Miami. The Cuba issue is a big issue there. That's a big issue there. But it's just not a big issue for the rest of the country. Doesn't mean we don't care. We care. We absolutely care. But let me put, maybe this is a good analogy because we're in Florida. If I went on the air and I said, hey, you know what? I don't think we should go and intervene over there in Cuba, whatever. I don't think we should be sending, a Voice of America, whatever. And I'm not saying that. But whatever my position is, pro or con or this and that, whatever. And then you have Mayor Suarez that, talked about, doing, he had some quote or some comment about, Cuba and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people that are like anti-Castro and they want to see Cuba freed. I totally get that. I'm with that and everything. But and I don't know, but so it's whatever the position is. If I got kicked off the air or someone else got kicked off the air, we parted ways or something like that, maybe you could understand that. But if the station's all about we're conservative, we're for free speech, and we're for constitutional rights, and someone kicked me off the air or kicked someone else off the air for a different position on Cuba and what we should do, then people are like, whoa, wait, how conservative are you? How free speech are you? Why are you more concerned about this than having someone on like Candace, who's been very effective, who's out there as a big voice for conservative values? It's an election year and whatever it is, who has a big audience herself. Like how are we going to be a big tent if you're focused on that? Now I've got family in Israel and stuff like that. I've been to Israel. It's a phenomenal country. We're great allies. Or all the rest of them. I got tons and tons. I mean, if you not to get too into this, and not that it matters, but I mean, my lineage, if you apparently you could trace it all the way back to stuff there, and I don't want to get too into it here, but I mean, if you look at the name, I believe it's they came from Barcelona, were actually Sephardic Jews, changed the name, stuff like that. So I probably have that in. I'm probably way back. My ancestors are come from that area. Okay, and tons of friends. Girlfriends, everything. I mean, all kind of. I don't get myself in trouble with my wife. My wife is Israeli. But and again, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. But it's like, I mean, it's a big deal to me personally. Obviously, I love my wife and love my family, and really had a great time in Israel and everything like that. But the point of it is there's a lot of people, I think, and I'm articulating that. This is why you have listened to the show, John D. Villarreal radio show, and Paul's going to has already had great comments, going to have some better comments here in a second, I think. If you're all about, hey, we're for constitutional rights, hey, for the Constitution, freedom, liberty, opportunity, constitutional rights, economy is for most people in America, from particularly on the conservative side, moderate Republican side, is going to absolutely Trump foreign policy 90%, 95, 99% of the time. You've got a situation, forget about the Middle East situation. You've got a ton of people, the entire base and Trump, that's saying enough of this Ukraine stuff. Now, you still got people voting for money for Ukraine in Washington, D.C. player, but you've got the base saying, we're done with it. Why? Because economy, freedom, liberty, opportunities of Trump's foreign policy. We don't want to deal with all that type of stuff. And so you can't, till two things can't be true. Now, if that's your thing, like I used to be a powerlifter, right? And I'd pick up all the time, Powerlifting USA, whatever like that. Cool magazine for powerlifters. Guess what? Darn near nobody else read it. No slam on that. It's a niche audience. You can't be the most viewed. I'm the conservative, blah, blah, blah. Up there with Tucker Carlson. And that's why, one of the reasons, along with a lot of other reasons, why Tucker Carlson is way more influential. Actually, I don't care what the views say, because like Paul said, we talked about before, where there's numbers that are, if YouTube for whatever reason puts me on the front page, any of my videos on the front page, Tim Pool was talking about that, you're going to do 1 million plus views. If Facebook, other people have talked about, Glenn Greenwald's talked about how Zuckerberg met with Dave Rubin. Glenn Greenwald has this just vicious takedown of Ben Shapiro, in my opinion. The system disconnect or whatever he does there on, I think he does it on Rumble and stuff. And X, definitely went through that. Was talking about how allegedly, reportedly, and he's got great sources, great reporting. There was a meeting between, first of all, Daily Wire has been funded by the Wilkes brothers, and was apparently, allegedly, reportedly, I'm not alleging that, but reportedly, in my opinion. And then, so you already have gas, you already, in terms of money, you already fuel, to do that. You give me a bunch of money, and I can do some great shows too. Believe me, I can get a lot of views. We've already got a lot of views with just my money, okay? And my money is definitely nowhere close to that Wilkes money, okay? Nowhere close. And so, and then supposedly very shortly thereafter, there was a meeting, according to Glenn Greenwald, now this is my paraphrase, my opinion, between Zuckerberg from Facebook and Ben Shapiro. And then after that, according to Glenn Greenwald, there was a lot of promotion of Ben Shapiro's content, stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, by topics, by there's a lot of different things. Just nowhere, Ben Shapiro's nowhere near as influential as Tucker Carlson on the Republican side, and maybe this is why. And so, or one of the reasons why, anyway. And so, what I'm saying is, a lot of people are surprised, because I don't think there may not have been a total clarity in the brand and in the communication on that. And so, and any foreign policy issue is not going to be the top issue. Just look at the polls. Look at the polls right now. Look at the polls right now about what the top issues are. It's not that. And Paul's talked about it on the air before. Number one issue, immigration. Number two issue, inflation, economy. Boom, 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 boom. You won't go on down the road. And so, if for whomever you are, if you take the position that foreign policy trumps, whatever else, a lot of people, at least on the conservative side, are going to be very surprised by that. And don't be surprised then if you start losing some audience, particularly if you're going to have Candace fans, you're going to have Ben Shapiro fans, and et cetera, like that. And then no amount of when you go out there and there's legalese and if this and that and Clavin, and if you say this and it really means that, and Christ the King means this, and in this context, it just looks like, and I'm not saying on any particular situation or any particular thing, but en masse, it looks like nonsense. And it looks like legalese, and it looks like you're trying to weasel, or I'm smarter than you, or I'm gonna debate it. This is not the Oxford Debating Society. It's not that hard. Now, I'm taking a couple segments here to walk around and dance around some things and try to be, because I do not want, in this internet age, my words taken out of context or clipped or whatnot. And I'm as you see, I'm talking about this in a way that nobody else has talked about this, to try to make sense of this. And, so anyway, I don't want to belabor that point. But, Paul, I know you're going to have some comments. Your comments, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't think this was just about a foreign policy issue. That's, I think, where it started at with Candace and Ben, but then it went beyond that. And that's why I think Candace got herself in trouble. with some of the remarks that she said about like people in Hollywood and DC, that's where it became a different thing, in my opinion. And I thought it was troubling. That's how I personally viewed it. And
sorry, let me just say this real quick. I'm not I haven't followed everything Candace say. This is no blanket defense of Candace or anything like that. I'm not condoning anything she said. I've tried to make sense of the different things, but I take your point. I just want to put that out there that by no means is this defense or condoning anything that Candace Owens has said. She can speak for herself, as can Ben Shapiro. I will be quiet. Go ahead.
And look, there were people who were not happy with Candace on the right just because of what she said as regards foreign policy. But like I said, then it went past that, in my opinion. And I mean, she mentioned Hollywood, she mentioned DC. Then you're getting into a different zone. And that's what I think really kind of started pushing her to making it more difficult, in my opinion, to retain her or keep your partnership with her. She kept kind of walking out the plank, in my opinion. That's how I viewed it. And I didn't like it when I first saw it. So, and I know a lot of other people on the right who also didn't like it. Now, to be fair to her, I know a lot of people who did like it. So it is a kind of a split thing. But look, I personally feel like Candace there's been a change in Candace in recent months. And we've speculated about that before. Is it time does she think it's time to move on from Daily Wire, which obviously she's done? Is she seeking a new audience? Is she looking, is there something different going on? I don't know. I have no idea. Only thing I know is certain things that she said. And again, I don't follow everything that she said. Just came across a few things and reports of what she said. Look, I personally, like I said, I had a problem with some of the things that she said personally. So I didn't like them. And so now, does that mean I couldn't work with her? Probably not. I probably would still work with her. But I can understand the opinion that you of course you have free speech, and of course you can have differences of opinion on foreign policy. And yes, we are in America and not in a foreign land. All that's true. But you have to be careful with what you say. And I don't know, I think there might have been some times where she could have been more careful. And that's not even, we haven't even brought up the whole thing about Macron and that whole thing. I mean, that's another thing.
I did see a snip.
I mean,
I heard a report of that. Was like, wow, yeah.
What are you doing? I mean, from what I understand of this, it's like, again, that doesn't mean you're not allowed to say it, but it's like, I mean, what's the game plan here? And so, like, what I'm trying to say is, I saw Candace in kind of a certain zone, and it's almost like, in my opinion, and I'm just saying this metaphorically as a term of art, it's almost like she went gonzo. She kind of just like took it up a couple of levels. And I think then you got a different entity than the first person that you partnered with. And so I can understand where it's like, well, we don't know if this works anymore for us. Well, and again, I don't even know if to this day if we know what happened. I don't know if she got fired, quit. Who knows?
What would have been cool, and I don't know if it would have been possible, but I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. But it's like, it would have been awesome to have like a debate or a conversation between Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro on the Daily Wire. Like, how hot would have that been, right? Or how, you know what I mean? Or that would have been very interesting. Just an airing out of the different conversations. Now, separately, the point that you made, you followed it a little bit closer than I did, because as I said, and I said in full disclosure, I do not watch Candace Owens or Ben Shapiro on any kind of, I mean, I just don't watch their stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not saying never, ever, ever. I mean, okay, this clip or someone, or usually when I come across them, it's on someone else's podcast or broadcast or a clip of, or someone commenting on something to do. And I'm not trying to be a punk. It's just, there's lots of content out there. I can't, let's say there's 100 podcasters I want to see in a day. I don't have that time. I've got to decide what I want to watch and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to, and they're way more successful than me. I'm not trying to be a punk or anything like that. But not unusual based upon some of the things you're going to say, you've said before, they call on the radio, they have their shock jocks and stuff like that. Hey, we did this crazy, and I'm not saying this is anyone. This is totally separate, hypothetical, has nothing to do with anything we talk about. But we did this crazy stunt on air. This got a lot of rain, so now we're gonna do crazy stunt plus X. And you see it, where you've got the people that are, pretty over the top on both the left and the right, and those are the ones getting ratings, and then they just walk it farther and farther, and pretty soon you're like Wile E. Coyote that went over the ledge, and you don't realize that you're no longer on the ledge, and then the smoke clears and there's nothing underneath you. It's just too far. And I think that may be kind of thing that you're talking about, Paul. We also see, like I said, that particularly in the internet age, and this isn't, in some ways it's a criticism, in some ways it's not. You could take it as a criticism, but in some ways it's not. But a lot of times, like, you're following the trends. Like you've got to follow the trends. Like, today we're doing this, and then the next day we're doing that, and something becomes hot. And so sometimes there can be an evolution. Now, people maybe going back to the branding and all that type of stuff, there's some, like, I would just thinking on the right, like maybe Heritage Foundation or maybe the Daily Wire, something like that. That's more like, hey, these are our principles. And I'm not saying that some of that, I'm just saying that are more like, this is we're not as trendy or whatever it may be. I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating. Lots to talk about. Any final comments before we take a break, and then we'll get ready for the last segment?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's what you said. I mean, what are your principles? What is your brand? I do think you mentioned earlier about kind of the issue of religion. I personally have seen, and I'm not going to say any names, I have personally seen pundits on the conservative side who started out very secular, who then became very religious. And, you just have to kind of draw your own conclusions from that.
Well, and again, we're not saying any specific religion or anything like that. We're not advocating for anything. We're just saying, writ large, it seems like religions is having sort of a comeback. And so people are jumping on that. Like you said, they were very secular. Now they're very religious. And maybe they found that. People have said that about Joe Rogan, the number one name out there, something like that. There's a clip. There was someone I commented on. I forget. I can't remember if it was The Hill or something. I want to give proper attribution. But basically, it was like, hey, here's this clip of Joe Rogan talking to Ben Shapiro, and check this out. And that time, Joe Rogan seemed to be more secular, and maybe it has evolved. And people can evolve and change, but very interesting. So much to talk about. Get ready for the last segment. Who knows what we're going to talk about then? It's so much to talk about here. You listen to John D. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and that. Be back in about 5 or 6 Hey, what's up, everyone? John D. Villarreal here at the John D. Villarreal radio show on Newstalk 1040 AM, all over the greater Tampa Bay area. Monday, April Fool's Day, April 1st, 2024, 5:34 p.m. here on Newstalk 1040, all over, like I said, the greater Tampa Bay area. If you're downtown St. Pete, downtown Tampa, man, we were driving around. I've been driving around a lot, actually. Been driving around. We went to actually, this brings up a good point here, and I'll get back to all the politics and good stuff like that. Well, we had to drive around. We had a little meeting with the radio station people, and may have some big news. I can't say too much, but I'll say this, that I do think that there's discussions ongoing to greatly expand the John D. Villarreal show, to go 5 days a week, to really do some amazing things, to do all kinds of stuff online. Who knows? We may be even talking about syndicating. There's a lot of things that we've been talking about, and we do definitely appreciate the Newstalk 1040 people and the management, the ownership, and everything there. And they've been fantastic. They've been great, and we do appreciate the opportunity. And I'll have Paul's comments on that in a second. But part of why I was driving around, I went to see my buddies over there at, Paul Gomez and some of the great people there at Volkswagen Brandon, the Cavalli Auto dealerships and stuff. And we do love that. And we've had a good relationships with them and good relationship with the Doherty Auto Group and everything. And then I was driving over to St. Pete. So I had to go do, see my dentist, and it's been a little bit, and I got busy and all the job stuff and everything. And I went to go see my dentist over there in Seminole, actually. It was right by St. Pete, right? So it's kind of like, near Madeira Beach, that type of area. Gulf Breeze Dental, Dr. Kevin O'Callahan, just fantastic. And I'll just tell you a story. So many people are like scared of the dentist, and I get that. I understand that. And there's a lot of people, I think there's even a Stanford study out there, and I'm not being a punk or anything like that, but maybe not all the dentist stuff that's recommended is really needed and stuff. There's a Stanford university study on that. And I don't know. I think like I just happen to live kind of close, and I can't remember how I found Dr. O'Callahan. I think I just called or something like that. But even from the jump, before I even had insurance, stuff like that, like their office was so cool and so nice. Like he works with his family operation, works with his daughters at the front desk. They're very nice. They answer your questions. I was able to go in there and get a cleaning. I always felt like they were straight up, super friendly. I'd love to have him on the air. I don't think he does a lot of media stuff and whatnot. That's just the way he rolls, and that's totally fine. And I understand that. But the philosophy, and how about this? The philosophy of the office is like, we do good work and believe that if you do a great job, that you're going to get the referrals. And I got to believe that. I went in there with my wife and everything, and they put us both together because they knew they were driving down and whatnot from a long ways, and they basically put us both together. So she had one appointment, I had another appointment. Dude, we did. I was able to do, because we had to go back and get my daughter, who's in school in Sarasota. We were able to get like X-rays and cleaning and fill out the forms and stuff for both of us in like less than an hour. And they have a dental hygienist. It's just really, really phenomenal. She does a great job. It's just a nice, easy atmosphere, easy parking and stuff like that. And then the doctor comes in and he talks about different things. That turned out that I need a little bit of fill-in. I'm like, oh, well, I have the insurance for this period of time. And they're like, you know what? He's like, you know what? We'll take care of you, John. And he squeezed me in to do the little filling and stuff like that. Gave me a little kit here with the little toothpaste and everything like that, but also explained kind of like, hey, you're doing a great job. You're doing an amazing job. What are you doing? You're doing this, and this, and this. It wasn't like, oh, well, you need to do this and this, and we're going to recommend 3 other procedures and stuff. My wife was like blown away. Like, I've never been to a dentist like that. I said, I know. That's why they're so great. Dr. O'Callahan and the team there, Dr. O'Callahan and the team there at Gulf Breeze Dental are no joke. 727-391-0109. 727-391-0109. And they are not paying for this in any way, shape, or form. This is not, I told them, this is how much I feel about it. This is how good I feel about it. Obviously, full disclosure, is my dentist. And then my wife, like, I'll say this and I'll wind down on this. When she had to go when she was a child in Israel, somehow, I think it's a family member, they were playing, I can't remember, they're playing on the steps, soccer stuff. I think they were playing on the steps. Somehow she got kind of knocked from behind, fell on the steps, knocked out her front teeth. They had some implants in there. And then and she always felt like there was some kind of issue in there, and we didn't know like what it was, and she felt like, well, maybe she needed to do another implant, maybe she needed to do another a root canal. We didn't know. And then Dr. O'Callahan, I mean, he does general dentistry and stuff, and he's an expert in what he does, but obviously, endodontics is more of a subspecialty and stuff like and whatnot. He's like, what? He's like, it could be this, it could be that. I don't know, whatever. And so here we are, and this is like Thursday, and this is obviously right near a holiday weekend. He's like, I have someone in referral. They're really, really good. I trust them. They make the call. They get us an appointment the next day. And we're thinking, well, we're going to have to do like another crown or an implant. It's going to be this big money, a root canal, all this type of stuff. We drive back all the way from Sarasota again, the long way. The next day, go to Tampa Bay Endodontics with Dr. Craig C. Broom, okay? And we go in there, and we were the last appointment. He squeezes us in before he's gone for the holiday weekend. My daughter and I are there because there's no school. We're doing everything, and we didn't know what was going to happen with mommy. We thought that mommy's going to have like a root canal and do this and a little surgery and do that and blah blah blah. And we went with her because obviously we support her, and also sometimes you may not be in the best condition to drive after. I don't know. I'm not alleging anything, but I just felt like it was safer if we were all together and we were there, and I was there to help her out, obviously. And then it turns out that like they did the 3D scan, everything. Dr. Broom, I went there. I was like, hey, can I go back there? And like, yeah. So I'm in there. That's the other thing. I'm in there with Dr. O'Callahan when he's talking to my wife, and vice versa. And then I'm in there when Dr. Craig Broom, the endodontics at Tampa Bay Endodontics at 2201 49th Street in St. Pete, is talking to my wife. And it turns out, guess what? We say, oh, look at this, your x-ray here from 8 years ago. I'm looking at this x-ray now. I really can't see a difference. And my wife is a doctor from Israel. They're having this conversation and whatnot. Bottom line, he's like, you know what? I wouldn't do anything. You're fine. I mean, and then you think about that. We're here thinking like, we're going to need to do all this stuff. I've been other places where there's this litany of stuff. I mean, between Gulf Breeze Dental and Dr. Kevin O'Callahan, okay, over there in Seminole on 5481 Seminole Boulevard, and Dr. Craig Broom of Tampa Bay Endodontics, I just felt like these are people that, I really like to give props and shout outs to people that I believe are doing the right thing, are treating people right, are treating the listeners right, are going to do a good job, because I don't like, we all talk about some of the things that we don't like. We talk about some of the negative, but I think it's very important to highlight the positive. And I want to give that shout out right there about what they're doing. And we're talking about the brands. We're talking about the big things. Now we have a lot to shove in here at the end here. So I wanted to thank them. I wanted to thank Gulf Breeze Dental and the whole staff at Gulf Breeze Dental and Dr. Kevin O'Callahan. I wanted to thank the whole people there at Tampa Bay Endodontics and Dr. Craig C. Broom. So I want to do that. Now, back to this. Paul, oh my gosh. We're talking about this whole situation with Ben Shapiro. We're talking about this whole thing with Candace Owens. I want to wind it down on this. I think that the more press that Ben Shapiro has done, I don't think it's helped him. I think it's hurt him. I'm not taking one side or another. They're both way more successful than I am. I think everyone's entitled to their opinion and whatnot. But I think that, I think that a lot of people feel on the right that, enough with all the people don't want. You look at Trump, even Trump's walking back from a lot of these things. I think a lot of people now have actually, and I talked to about the Israel, the war for six weeks, right? That it went up for, and a lot of people now have come to my position. I've already come to my position, which is, look, a huge supporter of Israel. I've interviewed Dana Danon. I'm a big supporter of Netanyahu. All the things throughout the years, families in Israel, all this stuff. Our roots go back to Sephardic Jews from Barcelona, Spain, everything like that. Okay, but if you, and I don't want to get on to this. We have so much more to talk about, but because I've already said it, which is, yes, you have to have security. Yes, you have to, that anyone, if you elect Hamas, that's a really bad thing. And why would you ever do that? And that's not going to end up really well. We need peace. I think the world and the Middle East wants peace. I think, You know, you look at what's happening in Dubai and Saudi and Riyadh, and there's a lot of other places. I mean, like, people just want to be cool. But at the same time, like, you can't have, again, King Abdullah, you can't have collective punishment. If you turn Gaza into a parking lot or something like that, that's not cool. I mean, and you know, children are innocent and all these things. And I don't want to get into all of it. And it's like, and this is the thing too. And this is what Trump is saying too. Okay, what it looked like on October 8th is different when it looks like now. Same thing with Ukraine. Same thing with Afghanistan. Afghanistan in 2001 and our actions there looked very different than they looked at in 2020 and getting out. You know, and 10 years down and 15 years down. War's bad for everybody. And American people, you know, in Trump, we had no people. Part of the reason why people want to reelect Trump is that people don't want to deal with the wars anymore and the interventions anymore. That doesn't mean that you don't do things, don't respond. But, you know, it's the golden rule. You want to be treated right, you need to treat other people right. You know, you can't, you know, it's peace, love, freedom, for opportunity for everyone. I love everybody. Okay. And I think that people have a fundamental sense of fairness. There's this clip of Wolf Blitzer out there that's going, you know, interviewing someone that's going viral. And I think that, you know, and it's like, it's the same thing, dude. The truth always comes out. It's the same thing, dude. It's like, I don't like taking a position on anything. It's like, you know, and again, I love Israel and everything like that. And I've got family over there and I can't wait to, you know, I'm looking forward to going back and seeing so much more of the country. But, you know, if and again, this has nothing to do with it. If you tell the truth, you never have to worry about what story you told, right? And so I think there, again, it goes back to consistency and brand and everything like that. And so I think it's getting to a point now where one is, so the final comments I want to make on this is, you know, I think that not everybody knew that were fans of the Daily Wire knew that maybe this was the full position of the Daily Wire, or at least Ben Shapiro, in my opinion. Number one, because you're seeing that in the comments. Yeah, in my opinion, I may be wrong. And number two, regardless, and I have no problem with that position. That's your position. That's fine. But you have to have a clarity of the brand. Number two, that position is not. I'm not sure that's a majority position on the Republican Party. And we kind of saw that, right, with the Never Trumpers, Paul. This goes back to the Never Trumpers. I'm not saying that's Ben Shapiro, but Ben Shapiro, and they called him out on that. Ben Shapiro was a fan of DeSantis, not Trump. And there's people that maybe have written for magazines and maybe went on cruises and different things like that. Some of the Never Trumpers were some you know, were people that were more pro intervention, and they were against Trump because he wasn't for some of these things. And then now, obviously, with what happened with the congressional hearings and Harvard and MIT and all that, and Bill Ackman, the whole Bill Ackman thing and Cornell and all that stuff, like, whoa, wait a minute, because they was like, oh, we're going to go to the left, and then they said, whoa, here's the new left, and now it's like, well, where are you going to go? And now it's like, well, listen, you know, that's not a majority position of where America is. So if you're doing a publication trying to get a lot of views, and then we get the legalese and stuff like that. Am I making sense here, Paul? You can sort some of this out because I want to get to some other stuff.
Yeah, look, I think that's, look, I don't know. I mean, they're different. I've seen different polls. I've seen different things on this. I don't think Candace represents some beacon of light on this.
I'm not saying that at all, no.
Yeah, I mean, but so, you know, Daily Wire is what it is. Ben is what he is. I think most people know what he is and know where he's coming from as regards interventionism, and that's it. You know.
Yeah, and I have no problem with any of them. You know what I mean? I all I'm saying is if you're clear about exactly where you're at, then you don't have to worry about that, you know, and whatnot. And I think that, you know, people globally you have a fundamental sense of fairness, and everybody's, you know, you treat everybody the same, and you try to be cool. And war's tough. It just sucks. You know what I mean? It's not good for anybody. And so I think that you know, you're seeing Biden and Rogan and Trump, you know, talking about different things and saying, you know, and so anyway, again, I made my position clear. I think it's complicated. I think it's nuanced. I think a lot of people have come around to my way of thinking, and it is so complicated, and I don't want to have the same discussion every week. That's why, like, I did it for 6 weeks, and then I've stayed in my position. I've come back to it here and there, but there's a lot of other things to talk about as well. So, okay. Now, let's try to jam all that in 10 minutes. So, Paul, Biden and Trump, there's a lot of things that we had the massive fundraiser in New York City. We have a lot of things going on there. But I do want to touch on that, but I'm way more interested in this whole situation with, my daughter just got back from dancing, and we may see her on camera here in a second. She's looking amazing here, the little ballerina. Washington Post, Dems unsure if they should register more voters. It's always been the case, and we've seen like a lot of people say like all the Google and the different people are like, hey, go register to vote, go to vote, don't forget to vote. That turnout basically helps the Democrats. It may not be that case anymore, and that's why I say that Biden is moving left, because this is almost like a base election, a turnout election. Tell me, walk us through what's going on right now. How a lot of people are going the sort of like less enthusiastic voters are actually more pro-Trump.
Yeah, that is true. People that are not non-voters, people that are not registered to vote or vote very rarely, those people are more likely to vote for Trump in this election cycle. And that is causing consternation among Democrats who are usually gearing up to register and turn out more people. Well, that might not help them this time. Now, something I wanted to say, because this just came across a little bit on an account that I follow. We've heard various iterations of supposed short list for the Trump VP. But I want to bring this up because this ties into something you mentioned yesterday. We were talking off air, which is a person that is now being mentioned on this list is the governor of North Dakota, Doug Burgum. Now, a lot of people don't know much about Doug Burgum. I didn't know a lot about Doug Burgum. However, it has come out that Trump really gets along well with Doug Burgum. And Doug Burgum is a billionaire. And I think he made his money from like technology in North Dakota, of all places. He's a Stanford MBA and apparently came across a new Balmer when he was there. The reason why I bring this up for you is because you mentioned something yesterday where you said people that are rich like to be around other people that are rich.
Right.
And because they don't have to worry about them. They don't have to be concerned about taking care of them or anything like this. And what I've noticed with Trump and Burgum, because Burgum was at Mar-a-Lago yesterday for Easter, and I paid attention to that.
Okay.
Is that these guys get along. Trump has a real synergy with Doug Burgum. And I think it gets back to that point that you said. People that are successful like to be around other successful people. Doug Burgum is a successful person, maybe more so than any other Republican, except for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely noticed that a lot. There's no doubt about it. I noticed it when I was training a lot of pro athletes and stuff. I mean, I've been around a lot, as you know, Paul. I've been around a lot of very successful people, all my life, or certainly once I hit professional life, I guess, and went to Silicon Valley, and even before that with the athletes and stuff. But particularly with the athletes and stuff, because like you have a superstar athlete who's kind of a celebrity or quasi-celebrity and stuff. And, I remember going different places like with McGuire and stuff like that. Everywhere we were going, it was like autograph, this and that, whatever. And it just becomes like a little bit, or like, hey, why is this person talking to me? Or does this person want to date me because, whatever it might be. And I've just been around a lot of different people where you're thinking that, almost, married into a family of, in my opinion, potentially big, huge money. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, huge money. And, the questions are there. Why is this person here? A lot of times you have that feeling of, why is this person here? Are they here for this reason, or are they here for a different reason? Or maybe they're here for dollar signs, or they want something from me. They want an autograph, or they want this, or they want it, whatever it might be. And when, the athletes are around the other athletes, it's like, hey, I can relax. I can have fun. I can go, like, we're going to go outside. They're not looking at me as whatever. Like, we can go party, we can go dance, we can go to the Bahamas, whatnot. A lot of people do go to like the old vacation in St. Bart's, because a lot of rich and famous people go to St. Bart's, and it's you have a chance to sort of being chill, without crazy levels of paparazzi and stuff like that. So yes, rich people, in my opinion, rich and famous people want to be around other rich and famous people, in certain respects, right? Or certainly, there is, not always, but I mean, it's just different levels. One of the things I try to do, and that's we talked about, like the show, part of that, talking about the show and what we might want to do with the show, and they want some sports content. So I'm like, that's some sports content, and like, that's cool. Of course, I'm a former national champion. I'm training pro athletes. I love sports, but I'm not going to sit here and be a stat person. If you want sabermetrics or something like that, that's not me. But one of the things I would do with athletes and stuff, or when I would have them on my show, when I was doing a sports show, or I would, like, hey, what are you listening to? What's your favorite music? Like, it was different things, like more real people talk. And I think that's the thing. It's kind of like when you're, how do I say this? I'm gonna try to, let me be a little bit careful when I'm saying this. If you're trying to date someone that's really hot, if you sit there and you're all about, oh my gosh, you're really hot, like it just gives a different vibe. If you just treat them normally, then it's a way cooler vibe. Does that make sense, Paul?
Makes total sense. And like I said, that could be going on. That could be the deal with Trump in this situation. Look, when you get to a certain level, only so many other people can have at that same level or been to that same level. Totally. And so sometimes it's kind of nice to be around other people that get what it takes. Like with you, I mean, powerlifting, there's only so many people that have been to that zone. And so sometimes it's just fun to like be around other people who get that.
You know what? I'll give you, because I want to move on. I'll give you a perfect example. And again, I'll probably get in trouble, but at least I'll get in trouble with one person. So I married my wife. I love my wife. She's fantastic, and she's very, very spirited. Okay. But I married my wife because she's smart, super smart, and she's tough. Okay. And she's, she's beautiful, but she's not a supermodel. I'm not a supermodel, but like, I know a lot of guys that they're successful and they're chasing one attribute. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times to their detriment. And, exactly what you said, Paul. I'm a super genius. I'm super smart. I don't stop. I'm always thinking. I'm usually always talking. Not always, but a lot of times I'm talking. And I wanted to be around someone that understood, that I could have a conversation with all the time about anything and understood what I'm talking about and had that horsepower. It's actually more relaxing to be around that because I'm not constantly trying to interpret stuff or dumb it down or whatever it is. And so I think that there could be some of that going on right here, but I want to move on. It's not about me. So now what else are we talking about here? We're talking about, look, there's a lot of things going on here. We had the Ronna McDaniel thing, the Jon Stewart thing. We talked about that. I know you follow this. You're huge on X. You're growing. You're almost 18,000 subscribers, followers on X. RFK is doing some stuff. He picked a left wing. I talked about that too. As soon as I saw that pick, I'm like, that's going to help Trump. And the polls saying that he's been helping Trump for a while. Where do you think we are generally, totally with this campaign right now?
I think, and pollster Rich Barish just said this thing. It's a good comparison. He said, look, right now this campaign looks a lot like 2012, Romney versus Obama, which is you'll find a couple polls here and there where Romney was ahead. Most of the polls have Obama ahead. He's like, that's the way I'm looking at this right now, which is Trump is in the driver's seat. Biden is going to have to work to catch up. And he's got a lot of work to do. Not that he can't do it, but right now you'd rather be Trump than Biden for sure.
That makes sense. I definitely agree with that. There also was an important ruling out of Pennsylvania, which said, by the appellate court, which said that basically you have to basically sign and date the outside of the mail-in ballot. How big of an impact is it on Pennsylvania? Super quick, Paul, 5 seconds.
Massive, could be decisive.
Wow. Lots to talk about. Go check out Paul on X over there. Go check out me as well. This is the John D. Villarreal Radio Show. So great to talk to you, everyone out there. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. Can't wait to see you next week. We might have big news about the show, so stay tuned for that. This is the John D. Villarreal Radio Show on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Stay blessed. See you next week.